Okay, we're still on passage 2. Now we're on question 10. Again, you've got your hard copies, so you can either highlight or take notes in your notebook where you come across the answers to these before you answer. I won't take time with the Edpuzzle to allow you to read it through the Edpuzzle. So select 2 ideas that show how President Nixon develops the idea of responsibility in passage 2. So again, you're looking specifically for, does he highlight areas for continued improvement, outline roles for different parts of society, minimize the influence of outside factors, summarize government successes using the opinions of the experts. And so you would again glance through this or your paper text, hit pause when needed so that you can read the whole text. Take notes in your notebook under today's date. There we go. And after you've answered the question, I again will show you the correct response so you can see if you got it right or wrong. So go ahead and answer the question now. All right, so in selecting 2 ideas that show how President Nixon develops the ideas of responsibility, one is by outlining the roles for different parts of society. President Nixon spends much of his speech thanking the American people for taking the necessary actions to weather the crisis. He also outlines plans for the action for the people, the government, Congress, and industry to take in the future. Then the other responsibility, minimizing the influence of outside factors. Okay, that is one of the ideas that he shows that they need to take the responsibility for. Richard Nixon mentions that the fact that some outside forces, for example, warmer temperatures and unexpected oil, made things easier on the country, but he deliberately minimizes these contributions in favor of the voluntary action of the American people. Okay, so now we have question 11. Read this excerpt from passage 2. But the federal government also has a vital role to play. It must be a catalyst for industrial initiative. It must clear away the red tape that lies in the way of expanding our supplies, and it must provide the seed money for research and development. This is in paragraph 18 if you want to go and look at it. And again, sometimes it helps to read the paragraph before paragraph 18 and maybe after it to give you some help. Why does Nixon use the word catalyst in describing the role of the federal government? So let's have that pulled up beside here. All right, so there's 18. Why does Nixon use the word catalyst in describing the role of the federal government? Is it to show that the government needs to initiate change, to describe how the government has caused the crisis, to argue that the government must solve the crisis alone, to highlight how the government will work with the American people? So take your time, read the question, reread the passage, try to, maybe put the question in your own words. Not only look at paragraph 18, but the one above it and the one below it. See if it gives you any hints. Go ahead and answer the question. And after you answer the question, I'll show you the correct answer. All right, so why does Nixon use the word catalyst in describing the role of the federal government? One of the meanings for catalyst is to kind of get things going. If you're speaking in a fire, catalyst might be, the match thrown onto the oil to get the fire started. In this case, to show that the government needs to initiate the change. So the government is the match, and in order to initiate the change, they need to throw it on the fuel to get the fire going. So it says, let's see, Nixon uses the word catalyst to show that the government must instigate or initiate changes that will help solve the crisis. Okay, go ahead. We're going to move on to the next question. Okay, in passage 2, how does President Nixon's allusion to World War II reflect the purpose of his speech? Okay, so if you're unfamiliar with allusion, when we go over the answer, I'll explain it. But just like on the FSA, days 1 and 2, I'm not going to be able to tell you what allusion means if you come across that question initially. So try to figure it out on your own, and then I'll explain it afterwards. So again, let's see, his allusion to World War II, how does that reflect upon the purpose of his speech? It highlights the historical causes of the crisis. It emphasizes the importance of dealing with the crisis. It reassures people that the crisis is coming to an end, or it shows that problems are best solved through strong leadership. Okay, so let's see if we can find this allusion he makes to World War II. Okay, it's here, but I'm going to back up a little bit so we can see the paragraph above it. But it's this one here where he refers to the Second World War. So you might want to pause the Edpuzzle and read this, or read it on your paper. Read that, and then this specific paragraph, and then possibly the one out after it to answer this question. After you've answered the question, I'll show you the answer. Alright, so in question 13, passage 2, how does President Nixon's allusion to World War II reflect the purpose of his speech? The correct answer, it emphasizes the importance of dealing with the crisis. So basically, Churchill's quotation emphasizes the importance of the outcome of World War II. So back when World War II was over, Churchill was talking about, why this outcome was so important. So he's using a past example of a story. That's what an allusion is, referring back to some important event in history. And then Nixon quotes Churchill to highlight the importance of the energy crisis. So he's comparing the two. He's saying this is, no different than the importance of the outcome of World War II. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Okay, we already answered question 14 because it was about passage 1, at least part A. So we're going to scroll down to part B, because it's about passage 2. Which sentence from passage 2 supports the answer in part A? So our answer was, let's see, people must make sacrifices to help the government deal with the crisis. So for the past 7 weeks, we have observed gasless Sundays across the country, and it's letting you know which passage to go back to locate that information. These are just some of the steps you will have to take to meet the problem head-on, and you can expect more in the future. That goes down to 14. Nothing which the government might do could be successful, however, without the full cooperation of the American people. And then finally, late last year I announced the beginning of Project Independence, a full-scale effort to provide the capacity to meet American energy needs with American energy resources by 1980. That was paragraph 17. So again, take notes in your notebook, go back and reread these read option A, reread the section. Reread option B, eliminate your response if you can. Cross them off as you go, but you're trying to find the proof that supports the argument that people must make sacrifices to help the government deal with this energy crisis. So which of these best does that? Go ahead and answer the question, and then I'll show you the answer. So paragraph 15, answer C, nothing which the federal government might do could be successful, however, with the full cooperation of the American people. That is the sentence that best supports people must make sacrifices to help the government deal with the crisis. So again, down here, let's see, we already went over this as to why we chose that answer. Nixon's speech is about the laws that will go into effect, but bottom line, they need the willingness of the people to do this. And the sentence, there we go. So the answer that we chose, this supports the answer in part A above. President Nixon reiterates, or goes over again, that the success of his various plans in Passage 1 rely on voluntary cooperation as much as the new laws and regulations. Okay, so go back to passage and the questions. Okay, question 16. Select two sentences from Passage 2 that provide evidence that government action lessens the burdens of the crisis for Americans. All right, so let's see. So from paragraphs 11, 12, and 13, again, you might want to go back and look at your hard copy and highlight or underline or take notes in your notebook. And we're looking for which of these two sentences provide the best evidence that government action lessens the burdens of the crisis for the Americans. So how is the government helping, the citizens feel like this isn't so overwhelming? So go ahead and search for your answer. Again, highlight them or jot down the answers so that when I put the question up, you'll have your information. Let's see. And there we go. Passage or paragraph 10, and then 11. 12, 13, and 14, just in case you need it. Okay, answer the question and then I'll give you the answer. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Even though the directions on question 16 say select two sentences that provide evidence, they chose the two that they felt were the best answer options. But if you were to choose one of these and also choose the sentence where price gouging is discovered, it is being stopped. Where is that? Right here. If you had marked this one, not this one, but this one, you still would get the question correct. Or if you didn't mark this one and you marked this one and this one, you would still get the question correct. So that's nice to know that if you're reading along, as long as you follow directions and only select two sentences, even if you think there's another one that's similar, hopefully they take that into consideration. Just try to pick the two best ones that support that evidence. Okay, so now we have a question that refers back to both the audio speech and Passage 2. So we may have to go listen to that audio again. Both of these speeches by President Nixon discuss the energy crisis. How do the two passages differ in their meaning? Passage 1 warns that the crisis will get worse, while Passage 2 insists that the crisis will be resolved. Or Passage 1 focuses on immediate actions, while Passage 2 deals with plans for the future. Passage 1 supports government action, while Passage 2 suggests the action by the people. And then finally, does Passage 1 states that the crisis is exaggerated, while Passage 2 takes the crisis seriously. Hopefully you took notes on the radio address, but if you didn't, I'm going to play it again so that you can search for what Passage 1 focuses on in comparison to Passage 2.
I am announcing tonight the following steps to meet the energy crisis. First, to increase the supply of heating oil that will be available this winter, we must adjust production schedules and divert petroleum, which might normally go for the production of gasoline, to the production of more heating oil. To accomplish this, the amount of gasoline which refiners distribute to wholesalers and retailers will be reduced across the nation by 15%. As we reduce gasoline supplies, we must act to ensure that the remaining gasoline available is used wisely and conserved to the fullest possible extent. Therefore, as a second step, I am asking tonight that all gasoline filling stations close down their pumps between 9 p.m. Saturday night and midnight Sunday every weekend, beginning December 1. We are requesting that this step be taken voluntarily now. Upon passage of the emergency energy legislation before the Congress, gas stations will be required to close during these hours. This step should not result in any serious hardship for any American family. It will, however, discourage long-distance driving during weekends. It will mean perhaps spending a little more time at home. This savings alone is only a small part of what we have to conserve to meet the total gasoline shortage. We can achieve substantial additional savings by altering our driving habits. While the voluntary response to my request for reduced driving speeds has been excellent, it is now essential that we have mandatory and full compliance with this important step.
So hopefully you've taken notes. If you didn't, if you kind of spaced out, hit rewatch, listen to that audio version again, and then compare it to the text here and try to figure out the main difference in the audio versus this passage here and what it accomplishes. So take your time, answer the question, and then I'll show you the correct answer. Okay, so in number 17, how do the two passages differ in their message? Passage 1 focuses on immediate actions, while Passage 2 deals with plans for the future. Let's see. The largest thematic difference between the passages is that Passage 1 deals with the steps that ordinary Americans can take to mitigate the dangers of the current energy crisis, while Passage 2 sets its sights on preventing future energy crisis. Okay, I think we finished with that one. Hopefully I didn't miss any of those questions. Please feel free to come up and show me what you've highlighted in the passage or what you've written down in your notebook. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. You can't ask me on Monday or Tuesday when you're taking the test, but if you got one wrong and you really want to know why your answer wasn't correct and the other answer was, please come up and talk to me. Please don't be afraid to ask. That's how you learn. So go ahead and go to the next Ed puzzle, if there is one. I'm starting to lose my voice and get a little tired here at night.